had a data protection fail personally? Raise your hands. Any data protection fails in the audience? I can see, as interpreter, I can see 10 hands. Maybe too honest, who knows someone who's had a personal data fail? Yeah, many more hands raised. And for whom of you were close relatives affected? I know your pain. I'm completely happy that I can introduce Alva Freude and Stefan Brink to you with the GDPR fail show about GDPR, but also in freedom of information, and hopefully a very entertaining 90-minute show. An applause for these two, please. Hi. We can't see much from here. A very nice evening to you. We'll simply start with something to loosen up, and we'll see if our technology works at the same time. GDPR, privacy by design, data protection, impact assessment, technical and organizational measures. I hate paper, red tape. Data, oh dear, data. I hate data so much. And ordering, I hate that even more. Filing and all that. It's about personal data. Name, email, account number, perhaps where they live, but also age, size and weight, and the tax number are under protection obligations. Data, yeah, data. We have to protect the data. Data is not a little thing. First, take the effort, then reap the rewards. Reap the rewards. Protecting data from all these hackers and spies and all that nonsense that happens if you use the same password for several services and leave your laptop open lying around, or lose that paper with all the passwords on it. Data, oh yeah, data. We must protect the data. All the data. We have to maintain them and order them, file them, file them, file them. Data, yeah, data. I love data so much. We have to maintain them and look after them. Then they are much more useful. All right, now to the foundations, the fundamentals of the GDPR and the German Data Protection Act. You have to know what you have and why, and prove that they're safe. That's why the EU had 7 principles that they came up with, according to which you record and transmit and establish your protection measures. And these are fairness, purpose, minimization, correctness, limitation of storage, integrity, and accountability. And that's what you need for your privacy statement. Data, oh yeah, data. You have to protect the data. Yeah, the data. We have to maintain it and file it. We have to file it, file it, file it. Data, oh yeah, data. I love data so much. We have to maintain it and look after it. Then they're much more useful. In case we don't understand something, have a hard time interpreting the law, data protection commissioners will help us. It's free of costs. Data, oh yeah, data. We have to protect the data. So what does that mean for you in life? I'll promise that I'll take as much care as I can, and then I can finally go back to my work. Data, oh yeah, data. I love data so much. We have to maintain it and look after it. Then they're much more useful. And finally,
Bearbeitungsverzeichnis und an eure Datenschutzerklärung.
Remember your processing manual and your privacy statement,
Dann geht's los.
and then we can start.
Okay.
Okay,
Dann geht's los.
right, and then we start. So we'll start. How do we start, Alva?
Datenschutzgrundverordnung
Well,
erzählen wollen, über die Pannen erzählen.
GDPR or fails,
Wir schnappen uns mal ein paar Opfer.
we'll just get some victims from the audience,
Die schwierigsten
which will help us
in der Datenschutzgrundverordnung
get the most difficult rules in the GDPR
irgendwie in den Griff zu kriegen.
and get to grips with them somehow, right? Okay, good idea.
Wir haben hier 4 Stühle.
We have 4 chairs.
Lauter frei.
Okay, I see lots of volunteers. I'm looking for 4 of them. Right. Wow. I still don't see a lot. One person showing up, someone shouted out in the back there. That's the second one. Get onto the stage. We need 2 more.
Da ist der dritte.
Okay, the third one there.
So,
Right.
der letzte.
The last one. Last candidate.
Hallo,
Das sieht schon ganz gut aus.
Okay, that looks good.
das ist Andreas.
Hallo, Andreas.
Ja, such dir eine Farbe aus.
Okay, you choose a color. There's Andreas. Sit down, please. Welcome. Stefan. Hi. Jonas.
Hallo.
Hi. Ollie.
Dann setzt euch
Great. So
Jetzt habe ich natürlich nicht
do sit down. Of course, I didn't remember all the names. Andreas,
Jonas,
Jonas,
Katrin
Katrin,
und
and Ollie.
Und der Olli.
Olli.
Ollie.
Okay, ich glaube,
Okay. I don't know if I'll be able to remember this. Well, but these are all personal data, and these people have all invented pseudonyms, obviously. And each of you will get a sheet.
Ja? Ihr kennt doch alle den großen Preis, oder? Kennt ihr den großen Preis? Kein Mensch kennt mehr den großen Preis. Das ist eine gute Voraussetzung, eine sehr gute Voraussetzung.
That's very good.
vergessen oder nicht mehr geschafft habe, Wumme und Wendelin reinzuschneiden.
Ja, sowas.
Und die Tentakel fehlt auch.
Ja, gibt's denn sowas?
Ja,
Okay.
Uns eine Menge sehr spannende Fragen für euch ausgedacht.
We've come up with some very interesting questions for all of you, and
Zunächst mal die gleichen Gewinnchancen.
you all have the same chance to win. You'll
Am Ende gibt's eine Finale.
be taken through 2 rounds, and the best 2 will then get into the final, and that was it. Basically, the rest will explain itself. So, shall we start? We still need 4 other candidates, 4 more volunteers, please. But you stay on stage.
ein kleines bisschen Mathe können.
But you should be able to do some limited amount of maths, because we need people that can calculate from the first row, because these people need to tally up the points, because I didn't manage to get this kind of elaborate task programmed, which is tallying up the points. We'll just get some people from the first row, they can all calculate. I'm quite sure of that. They look that way.
So, wer will denn für den...
So, who would like to count points for Andreas?
Ja, ihr zwei gehört zusammen.
You two belong together,
Aber ihr gehört nicht zum Andreas dazu.
but you are not biased. You're not related to Andreas or anything. Okay, so you'll count his points. That's not an easy feat, but because there'll be many points, but you'll manage. And sometimes candidates will fall back to 0, but they can catch up again. Jonas,
Noch ein Pseudonym.
another pseudonym.
Wer zählt die Punkte von...
Who will count Jonas's points?
Müsli.
You can call me Muesli as well.
Haben wir noch jemanden?
Do we have someone?
Ja, immer schön in die Mikrofone reinsprechen.
Okay, please speak into the microphone. Second volunteer for counting Jonas's points. You just have to count. Come on.
Super, du zählst Müsli.
Great. So you'll count Muesli.
Ihr könnt auch Dreisatz machen.
And you can,
Nur eine Zahl.
Aber die Punkte bitte.
whatever. Well, please do not treble the points, triple the points. But who will count for Katrin?
Fair, sauber und
Fairly, cleanly,
aufmerksam.
and observantly, and doubly. No, someone over there, perhaps. They're all looking away now.
Sonst zeigen wir auf jemanden. Sollen wir auf jemanden?
And we'll just point to someone. Well, that would be mean, though. Well, if the advantage, these people will have to stay until the end. So we'll have 4 people in the audience at least. Okay, you two belong together. I'm going to tell you what you have to count up, and you remember the points. And who will do this for Ollie?
So kriegen wir auch die 90 Minuten zusammen.
And that way we'll get the 90 minutes filled as well.
Keiner?
No one?
Da!
Over there.
Ja, ihr zwei gehört zusammen.
You two belong together. You'll count for Ollie. Don't cheat.
Fangen alle bei 0 an. Das
Just,
müsst ihr euch noch merken.
and you'll all start with 0. You can all remember that. And then we will start with round 1. We'll start with the very easy tasks. There's always going to be 4 options, 4 choices. And you have papers, sheets that you will hold up with the letters A to D, but the others should not see which letter you will choose, just the secretive.
Fangen wir ganz einfach an.
Okay, we'll start easy. Alva.
Was? Nicht wen. Was schützt
What does data protection protect? What do you think? A, data? Is it data that's protected? Or B,
Sicherheit von Daten?
security of data?
Dann sind wir hier richtig, oder?
Gegen was?
C,
Schützt der Datenschutz.
what is protected? C,
B, sicher, ihr könnt das nicht sehen. Oder?
A, data.
Daten. B, Sicherheit.
B, security of data. C, the offenders. Or D, self-determination about personal information. Could you repeat the question, please?
Schutzgutdebatte.
Ach, übrigens, was wir vergessen haben,
What we forgot to say, each of these 4 has an audience joker. Well, no, didn't forget that. That's only in round 2. So,
Heißt vor was schützt das?
if I understood correctly, if you ask about protecting against, is it protecting off what? So, what does data protection protect? Data, security of data, offenders, or self-determination of about personal information?
tut.
Piep. Sehr schön. Wunderbar. Das
Beautiful.
Sie sind maximal transparent.
These sheets are maximally transparent. And the correct answer, of course, is D, which means
23 Punkte für den Andreas.
23 points for Andreas. Muesli will go without. Katrin, 23, and Ollie, 23. You all remember that. So
3 mal 23. Okay.
3 times 23. Okay.
Frage 2.
Second question.
Seit wann gibt
Since when do we have data protection laws?
vielleicht seit Mai,
Maybe since May 2018?
vielleicht seit
Maybe since 1995?
vielleicht
Maybe since May 1949?
oder vielleicht
Or maybe since 1970. So A, May 2018, B, 1995, C, May 1949, and D, 1970. Since when do we have data protection laws? Decide now. This is nicely spread.
Sehr schön.
Great.
ja gar nicht runterzählen.
I don't have to count it down at all. It's very simple. We'll start simply. We'll solve them back. May 2018, yes, there was a data protection law, the GDPR, but of course that was not the first one by far. In 1995, there was the Data Protection Directive at the EU level. Quite old, but not old enough. May 1949 was the basic law of the German constitutions, and 1970, that was in fact when the first data protection law was passed in the German federal state of Hesse. So,
Für Müsli.
0 for Muesli. Didn't he have D? No, he had C. Oh. Katrin, 23 to you. I don't know if it's 23 plus 23, if you can calculate that, but try. And over there, no points.
Nächste Runde, Alva. Komm.
Next round, Alva, come on. Next round.
Wer ist der
Who is the father of the GDPR? That's going to be very difficult.
Wer ist der Vater?
Who is the father of the GDPR? First, is that Jan Philipp Albrecht?
Ist das? Oh, jetzt haben wir ein Problem, Alva.
B, oh, we have a problem now. Is it Jan Philipp Albrecht? Slightly different spelling there. C, is it Jan Philipp Albrecht? Or D, is it Horst Seehofer, the current interior minister in Germany? Okay, they're all looking at the spelling varieties of Jan Philipp Albrecht's name. You're completely correct to take a look there. You can all decipher this, can you? So,
Ihr seht den Unterschied.
you see the difference, don't you?
Zwischen 1 und 2,
Between A and B, there's another P coming. Between B and C, there's a hyphen added, or D. Also, if you choose D, it's going to be very simple for you.
dann
Right, now, try your luck.
C.
C, Ollie, come on.
Hast du schon. Wunderbar.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful. You're finished. Andreas,
Die Lösung.
0 Punkte.
0 points for Andreas. A, wrong, 0 points. Katrin,
Falsch. 0 Punkte.
wrong, 0 points. And Ollie got it right. B is correct. Jan Philipp Albrecht does not have a hyphen in his name, but 2 P's at the end of the Philipp.
Wie lange hast du vorher?
Ollie, how long have you been training secretly?
Nächste Frage.
Not long at all. Next question.
Ja,
Genau.
Great.
20 dazu.
Woher
Da
kommt die
0
Zahl
dazu.
23?
Where does the number 23 come
Woher
from?
kommt die Zahl
Where
23?
does the number 23 come from? Good question. Who can explain
23.
the number 23?
20
Question to the audience.
da drauf gekommen.
Who got that idea and where from?
Bevor wir uns hier blamieren und das
Before we just embarrass ourselves completely and try to tell the story ourselves, who wants to tell the story?
Oh, das schweigt.
Er mag selber erzählen.
I
Wir
think
wollten eben schon nicht zählen.
he
wir
would
wollten
like
erst-
to. They didn't want to tell, so why should they tell the tale?
Absolut keine Ahnung.
I have no idea at all. Come on, please tell.
wir werfen einfach mal Tron ein.
We'll just
Tron.
insert Tron, Google Tron and 23 and
Bevor wir jetzt, wie gesagt, was Falsches
Nächste
erzählen.
Frage.
before we say something that's wrong. Okay, next question. Which important principle has Alva learned when he started working at the data protection office from the lawyers?
Immer recht.
A, the principle, lawyers, legal people are always right. B, it depends.
C
C,
steht doch im Gesetz.
well, surely it's in the law. Just look it up. Or D, we are God.
Also, die Frage ist,
Okay, the question, which important principle has Alva learned from the legal people? A, the legal people are always right. B, it depends. C, well, it's there in the law. Or D, we are God. And from now on, I will follow a strategy. A tactic.
so, wir haben hier einmal B.
So we have 1B.
20 Punkte oben auf.
Andreas, 23 points to you. Maybe you should fold it up so that it cannot be seen through
Hier wird unterschiedlich getippt, da kann man
the sheets.
Hat auch nicht geholfen. Weil
Müsli.
Well, it doesn't have. Muesli, 0 points.
Katrin,
Katrin,
23 Punkte.
23 points. Right, correct. And Ollie again, correct again. What is the correct solution? Can you see?
Sehr gut. Alva, nächste Runde.
Okay, Alva, next round.
Jetzt wird's schön. Jetzt wird's gut.
Which of the following cipher suits should you select? Should you choose?
Auf diesem Bildschirm was anderes. Wo kommt das denn jetzt her?
Where's that coming from? On that screen? They're seeing the last question, the previous question.
Cypher-Suiten sollte man wählen.
Which of the following cipher suits should you select? TLS, ADCH, ADCSA with RC4 128 SHA.
Ihr könnt gleich.
That's A. Or B. TLS, DH, RSA export with DS40 CBC SHA.
TLS, DHE, RSA mit
Or C, TLS, DHE, RSA with AAS 128 CBC SHA 256. Or D, TLS, ECDH, RSA with AAS
mit AES
256 CBC SHA 384.
So, vielleicht solltet ihr noch mal kurz gucken
Nochmal,
gehen.
genau, da kommt Achtung,
Oder hier kommt noch mal
da
ein.
kommt der Monitor. Viel Vergnügen dabei.
So,
Ohne Monitor wäre es leichter.
Without monitor, it'd be easier. Okay?
Ihr konntet euch eine Meinung bilden. Und jetzt würden wir
Have you
Buchstaben sehen.
selected? Have you made your choice? Let's see your letters. Cool.
Zeig's mir mal.
Ollie, I can't see. Show it to me, please.
Du hast C, das ist
You've got C. That's correct. 23 points for Catherine.
Auch daneben. Nächste Runde.
No points for Müsli and Andreas.
Warum?
Please resolve. Why?
Es war also geraten. Also warum?
Okay, you just guessed. Why? The rest is just bollocks. The rest doesn't just make sense. Exactly.
Ich kann mich noch an die letzten paar Stellen erinnern und wenn da 256 steht, ist das total super.
I could just remember the last digits, and that would be nice.
Sind alles echte Cypher-Suiten.
In meiner Welt nicht.
These are all existing cipher suits, not in my world.
Also gut, ich löse mal auf. Ja? Also A,
Alvar claims that they are all real.
wer will noch RC4 als Verschlüsselungsalgorithmus nehmen? Nein, böse geknackt, nehmen wir nicht.
No, it's been broken, RS4. B,
Ich glaube in den 90ern oder so von der NSA geknackt war, also ich glaube, die wollen wir lieber auch nicht.
B we don't want as well. C and D
Nicht so schlecht aus.
don't look that bad.
D könnte man sogar als Notfall nehmen, wenn man
D you could use in an emergency if you can't use perfect forward secrecy.
man die Daten mitschneidet und ein paar Jahre später an
If you log the data and years later you get to the key,
das können wir bei C nicht.
it's gonna be broken.
Einen kleinen Tick schwächer, aber es hat
C encryption is a tiny bit weaker, but it has perfect forward secrecy. So that's better.
Sehr schön. Haben wir noch
oder
eine Frage?
widerspricht jemand? Gut.
Nobody
Das war die falsche.
objects? Okay.
Wieder die Frage.
Wrong direction. Again, wrong direction. This is the correct direction.
Wer ist datenschutzrechtlich verantwortlich?
Who is jurisdically responsible?
A, der Hersteller einer Software zum Beispiel.
Legally responsible? The manufacturer, A.
Der Joker.
A, the manufacturer.
B,
B,
die einsetzende Firma, Behörde oder sonst was.
the organization.
C, der Admin.
C, the administrator.
Der
D,
Datenschutzbeauftragte.
the data protection
Das war jetzt nur der Einfachheit halber.
official.
Eigentlich gehört eine Geschichte dazu, die habe ich jetzt vergessen zu erzählen. Eine Behörde
We have a story, we can
Wesen
tell
möchte
it.
eine Software einsetzen und diese Software ist dafür bekannt, dass sie
An office wants to use a software which has data leaks to somewhere. Some call it telemetry,
und
and
jemand sagt,
somebody says
nicht zulässig. Wer ist dafür verantwortlich?
that's not allowed. And who's responsible?
Das ist die zuständige Aufsichtsbehörde, die sagt, das geht ja gar nicht.
The responsible oversight agency
Sich an die Firma oder die
says that is not allowed.
sich an den Admin oder
Now, where does the agency turn to? Whom does the agency turn to? Who's responsible?
Habt ihr alle was gewählt?
Ich breche aus meiner Strategie nur A zu wählen aus.
Aha, das scheint mir eine sehr gute Strategie, nämlich der andere
I'm stopping my strategy to select only A.
Müsli
Andreas,
hat zugeschlagen, 23 Punkte, Katrin genauso.
answer B is correct.
Super, 23. Seid ihr?
Whoever decides what to use is responsible.
Sehr schön.
The organization, for example, a company.
Ausrede nicht, wenn ihr eine Software einsetzen müsst, die irgendwie komische Sachen macht, Daten nicht richtig verschlüsselt oder so. Wenn ihr als Admin die einsetzen müsst ihr dafür sorgen, dass das richtig ist. Oder könnt die Software nicht.
If you, as a data controller, use software, you are responsible.
Ja, erste Runde ist schon
Ging ja
durch.
schnell,
Super,
erste Runde ist durch. Okay.
kommt jetzt
This round's up.
Der Zwischenstand.
abfragen.
Let's see
Die Punkte,
what the title is, the points.
92 Punkte für den Andreas. Herzlichen Glückwunsch.
92 points for Andreas. Worth an applause.
Müsli, das kann nicht viel weniger sein. Wie viele Punkte hat Müsli?
Müsli, not much less.
23. So,
23 points for Müsli.
wer hat für die Katrin mitgezählt?
Who is counted for Katrin?
25. Meine
125 points for Katrin.
Und der Olli hat wie viel?
Oli, how much?
Das habe ich auch gerade festgestellt.
Yes, of course.
Kriegst du nachher.
Oh, you get the 50 euro later.
Die Unwägbarkeiten bei menschlichen Zählungen.
Aber also 115,
sagst du
oder?
für den Olli?
The insecurities in communication.
Olli, für seine 115 Punkte.
How many points?
Well, the audience members said 125, but that's not a multiple of 23, so it was corrected to 115, and the €50 fee will be handed over later. Okay, so now there's going to be a Jeopardy-style panel to select questions from data fails, fake news, hacker information, freedom of information, and question mark are the categories, and there are different values, of course, to choose from. And if you lose your category, then you're having a hard time. So there are certain risk fields hidden here, and where you have to gamble a certain amount of points, and there are a few jokers in there and a few surprises that we will just not mention at this point. Katrin, and there is risk hidden, and that means that the number that's shown here does not apply. You select how many of your points you want to gamble. Now, those that get it wrong will be taken down, but due to the great counting method of your calculator, you're in front, so you choose. So is the audience joker now active? Yes, one time you can ask the audience if you don't know. And those whose turn it is can also pass on the turn to whoever shows up first. Okay, I see. So you can always pass without losing points, but if you show up and get the wrong answer when the question is passed, then you will lose points. And what do we do if no one is showing up? Okay, we'll see. Katrin, you go. Data fails 64. Okay, let's see if your construction works. Yes. This is a question that you will read out. Okay.
Nehmen wir mal an,
Hashing and personal relation. Let's imagine an enterprise is building some telephony app and records email addresses and phone numbers and says, these are not personal data because we've hashed them with SHA-256.
Jetzt kommt die Frage.
Now the question,
Sind diese Daten
are these data anonymous or personal, and why? Those hashed data.
Für wen?
For whom?
Für die Aussendende?
For the authority that is sending the data, or the organization that receives them? For the processor of those data. So the company that has calculated the hash. All that's left is the hash.
Oder, das ist vielleicht kein Tipp, ich weiß.
I don't know if this is going to be a hint. First, you'll have to say, do you accept the question, or are you going to pass? I'm going to accept the question. Jonas, is this an exclusive or an inclusive or? That can be important. Well, you always have to remember he plays against you.
Ja.
So now would be the moment for you to answer the question. Well, we just talked about the SSH-256 hashes and said that is actually a one-way road. There's no way back.
Also insofern,
So in that regard, you can't get back to the phone numbers from the hash. That's what you said when we had this other question. Did I say that hashes cannot be reversed? So you say it's anonymous? No, that's why I'm asking. For whom? And not for whom is it anonymous? Because the number that calculates, the company that calculates those hashes may still have the key for that lying around and could reverse it. Are there keys with hashes? There are no keys.
Ich meinte eigentlich.
I was thinking of cryptography. They're not salted and not peppered either.
Ich habe mich neulich mit sehr vielen Leuten.
I have been debating with many people whether a hash is still personal or anonymous, and my belief is that it's anonymous, but there's always two different opinions. So you decide. It depends. Yeah. The answer is it depends, and we will exclude the Interior Minister Horst Seehofer. Okay. So question is this data anonymous or personal, and why? And that irritates me. This and why, because I would say anonymous, but the and why would only make sense if personal would be the right answer. No. Is it a trap? Well, personally, I believe that hashes of this quality are anonymous data. How quickly will you calculate 10 million hashes back into a phone number? 1 hour was the case with SH8256. How many phone numbers do we have in Germany? It's not so many. I don't know, 100 million, a billion maybe. So a few seconds you will need. So sadly, no, that's wrong. You just simply by brute force, you can try out the hash for all the phone numbers, and once you hit it, you have the right number. It's a bit more difficult with passwords, but a simple example, and that has been subject to a court decision. Maybe you've heard of a Facebook custom audience where you can transfer hashes of email addresses to Facebook, and the colleagues in Bavaria prohibited local companies to supply Facebook custom audiences with email lists and transmit that to Facebook. And what is it used for? It's used by Facebook to then match which people are registered with the same email address. So in effect, the company will give the information to Facebook that this person is our customer, whether it's by hash or by direct email address, doesn't really matter at all, because Facebook can always use the email addresses of the customers they know about and calculate the same hash, and that's why these companies were prohibited from transferring the data. And the Bavarian Administrative Court, the highest administrative court in Bavaria, in Munich, did confirm this decision. So hashes of email addresses and phone numbers are personal data. Okay, let's go a bit slow, Ava. So 64 points down. That's the difference between plus and minus. Do you know about it? From the 125, right? Well, let's move on. The next round. Right, what is left? I think it's Andreas' turn now. You choose. Okay, I'll use information freedom 23, freedom of information 23. Anonymous application. So we're in the area of freedom of information. So it's going to be the reversed game. It's not about what the state knows about it registers of our data, but what we want to know from the state. So we ask about data and ask the authorities to hand out data. The question is, can I submit such an application anonymously? Can I submit it in a way that the authority does not know who is applying, and do they still have to process the application? Andreas, what do you think? Is that a question for you, or will you pass? Well, I'll just consider how I will do this, how I would get the reply, because with Frag den Staat, that might be a nice idea. If I could still then, as an applicant, be identifiable, I would just guess, and I think that it's a good question. Because, well, the legal system in Germany does always feature an applicant. I'll just pass the question on. He passes it on. Who wants to answer it?
50-50 chance.
50-50 chance. Olli, you say something. Oh.
23.
Okay. 23. Okay. I'll take it. And what's your answer? I'll answer that the question is no. The application cannot be processed further if the applicant is anonymous. I don't know if I should do it. I need to give a reason. No. No, you don't have to, because it's actually wrong. So 23 points deducted. Negative. You can submit freedom of information requests anonymously. Many authorities do not know this. Many authorities will then ask back, who are you? And you can respond, no, you cannot ask that. Anonymous applications work, but
gerade nach.
The state laws are improved, in quotes, because anonymous applications are being forbidden in certain German federal states. That is quite mean, but that's the exception to the rule. The rule is that applications can be handed in anonymously if you use Frag den Staat, the website, the well-known website. They are offering that service of handing in your request anonymously. Right, Stefan, you can now choose.
Okay, dann nehme ich die Daten.
Okay, I'll choose the 128.
Was ist das denn nochmal gewesen? Ja.
Common data leaks.
Besonders häufig werden uns Datenpannen gemeldet, ja.
We often hear about data leaks,
Datenpannenmeldungen.
and
Von Datenträgern.
we very often hear about
CC-Fehler
disks
oder Hackerangriffe.
which were lost, or CC/BCC errors in emails, or hacker attacks.
Sagt euch das was? Also Verlust von Daten.
But the most common thing is missing here. What's the most common thing?
CC-BCC-Fehler ist auch klar. Ihr sendet eine E-Mail mit offenem
This is clear. CC/BCC is clear
damit zusätzliche personenbezogene Daten an die Empfänger, die sie gar nicht
because
Hackerangriff, keine
the
Ahnung, zu erklären, was das
the
Frage,
recipients see all the other recipients, and hacker attacks are hard to explain, but you know, these are the most common, except for the really most common one that's still missing. So everyone thinks about where is the most common data leak.
Ich würde einfach sagen, unverschlüsselte E-Mail.
I guess the first thing would be not encrypted emails, unencrypted emails. Misli,
Ja, keine Fragen stellen.
I shouldn't ask questions.
Die gemeldet werden oder was sie tatsächlich
Also vielleicht
How they're reported or how they actually happen. So by the GDPR,
Aufsichtsbehörde, also in Baden-Württemberg, uns gemeldet werden.
data leaks have to be registered, reported,
Das Unternehmen oder die Behörde
and also the
in Zukunft nicht mehr vor.
things that the company did so that it won't happen in the future,
Noch ein paar andere Sachen
and a couple of other things.
verlangen oder sagen, das reicht nicht oder ähnliches.
For example, if we say that doesn't suffice,
Was für eine Art das passiert besonders häufig?
so which is the most common way for data leaks to happen?
irgendwie auf den Verlust von personenbezogenen Daten.
I would guess loss of personal data,
Ja, das ist ja eine Datenpanne. Das ist
but that's a
Achso,
data leak. Ah, okay. How did it happen?
Aktivität ist das passiert.
What activity led to this?
Hackerangriff ist, glaube ich, genauso undefiniert.
I guess hacker attack is
Okay, Katrin, was ist aus deiner Sicht?
also undefined.
Nicht dran.
Ja, ich weiß, ich habe so wenig.
Wir probieren's.
The right solution isn't on the board. Yeah, no.
Versehen
I guess it's companies that
Passwörter oder E-Mail-Adressen
accidentally
lesbar im Dienst.
leak email or password data to GitHub account or
Ja, genau.
networks.
Ich habe kurz eine Frage noch dazu. Also
I still have a question. You say data leaks,
theoretisch kann das auch an
but
analoges, also an
could it also happen analog in analog media?
Tausch einer Visitenkarte mit den darauf
Well, then I guess it's just
A business card, exchanging a business card with data.
Ja, zu dem Thema Fake News.
it's just business dates and business cards that are exchanged, and it happens there.
Ja.
So the real answer is
Die richtige Lösung steht gar nicht dran.
Okay.
Aber ich suche sie hier gerade raus. Aber
but I'm looking for it.
ich weiß ja auch.
So, ich sehe,
But everyone knows it, right?
das ist der Fehlversand. Das ist der
It's the
Vertrag, dass die Übermittlung
wrong
personenbezogene Daten an den falschen Adressaten.
the sending of personal data to the wrong recipients. It might be wrongly addressed
gesendet wird. Das kann
mail or email or a fax.
tatsächlich die häufigsten Datenpannen, die wir haben.
All of these happen very often, hundreds of thousands of times.
Ein Rezept an die Apotheke schicken,
We wanted to
ansonsten gut überwachte und
send
Arzthelferin hat
the
falsche Faxnummer raus.
prescription to the pharmacy, but we sent it to the wrong person.
Lassen wir milde Worte
It wasn't in there in all your answers. So I guess we won't deduct points from anyone. So maybe as background, that's just the most simple thing that can happen. For example, doctors that send the reports to the wrong
Und es gibt einen Betroffenen.
recipient.
Wie viele Betroffene gibt es denn? Aber wenn er es an den Falschen schickt,
It doesn't really matter. I mean,
ja auch an einen anderen gegangen. Also es sind
how many possible recipients are there?
das ist ein Fehler, den
That's,
viele bei der Datenpannenmeldung machen. Und
yeah,
sie sagen, das ist
doesn't really happen.
Risiko, weil
They say it isn't really high risk.
man muss sich nicht informieren. Bei einem hohen Risiko muss man bei einer
So,
informieren. Machen
yeah,
auch nicht bei Medizin.
you still have to inform the
Dazu eine ganz kurze Anekdote erzählen?
actual victims of the data leak, but most people don't do that. Can I tell you an anecdote?
Die gerade in Ausbildung sind.
I have contacts with some of the people who are involved with this,
Genau dieses, ne?
and then I talked about
Ärztliche Untersuchungen.
exactly this
Ärztin so ein Attest
example,
geschickt werden.
and then
Da wäre jetzt irgendwie der falsche.
what happens if the doctor,
20 Leuten, 2 Stück, denen das passiert ist. Bei den einen waren es die Daten.
what happens if if you send the wrong report, the report to the wrong person, and 2 of the people who were there
kam, dachte er, nee,
just
das ist nicht meinen.
happened to them. So when,
Es passiert wahnsinnig häufig.
yeah, in conclusion, this really happens way too often. So Andreas asked, what happens with these data leaks?
Muss sie uns melden, muss der Aufsichtsbehörde sagen, ich habe
So people have to report them the data leaks to us.
informiert. Das ist in Artikel 33 und 34 der Grundverordnung. Das
So that's Article 34 or 35 of the GDPR.
wenn es größere Gruppen betrifft,
If it happens to bigger groups,
ob man das persönlich macht, ob man das
it depends on how the report is delivered to the affected people. Sometimes you have to think about a fine if the data leak was really severe. That reminds me,
33 und 34 natürlich.
hat keiner gemacht.
it's 34 and 33 and not 35 in the GDPR. But email encryption, that's something I really like, because that's a data leak that probably happens a lot, but
Never reported.
it's never reported.
Yeah.
Ja,
Okay.
1024.
Okay. 1024.
Eigentlich wollte ich Datenpannen, aber dieses Fragezeichen, Ausrufezeichen.
I actually wanted data phase, but we never had the question mark, so I'll pick that. So what's behind that? Question mark 1024. Oh. Ah. Right. Risk. So I'll just fix this.
Muss ich mir das jetzt tatsächlich angucken?
Do I have to look at this whole stuff now? No, that won't help you at all. Sorry, I don't know the question myself. Didn't memorize it. Okay, what about this template? I have to expand it.
Was ist die
Kommt es nochmal vor? Nee, es war
Okay, now I can reload.
Ach, ich dachte, die Frage wäre jetzt Daten. Ich dachte auch.
I thought that was the question.
das ist
Oh dear.
okay.
Right.
Kannst du irgendwas erzählen?
Can you just tell a story or something?
2024,
So we had question mark 1024.
das ist
Oh yeah, that's a little movie that you are that you should show.
ein kleines Filmchen,
No, show us a movie
Herrn K. aus B.
by Mr. K from B. Risk instructions. In which areas can the Federal Data Protection Commissioner instruct the the Federal States Data Protection Commissioners in the German Federal States? In which areas
Das versteht man nicht ganz.
can the...
Eine Frage von
Okay, a question,
Vielleicht erkennt er ihn. Der eine oder andere erkennt ihn.
maybe one or other will recognize this guy. No. Not bad. I just have to search that video. That wasn't the plan to show it now. And what is risk? Risk, yeah, what does it mean? Risk means that you have to choose how many points of your 1024 you want to gamble. All of them. You could gamble 1024 points if you had. Do negative points exist?
Wir fragen mal nach dem Punktestand von Müsli.
We'll ask Muesli.
Immer noch 23.
Still 23. Do you want to gamble all of them?
Also negative Beispiel. Nein, dann kommt bei 0 raus und dann
He'll end at 0 and that will be it. But if you...
20 Punkte hören wir jetzt mal ganz genau hin.
So, for 23 points, we'll just listen closely. That's the German Data Protection Commissioner Ulrich Kelber. My name is Ulrich Kelber. I am the German Data Protection Commissioner. I turned it down too much. Let's restart.
So.
Right. My name is Ulrich Kelber. I'm the German Data Protection Commissioner for Data Protection and Freedom of Information. Now, my question about GDPR and the Data Protection Act, in which areas can the German Data Protection Commissioner instruct the federal states' data protection commissioners? Not that I heard this, but it was in the slide earlier. Maybe we should add that these 1024-point questions were all rather difficult. Now, the question, of course, is, you have 10 seconds.
Okay, so lange kann ich nicht.
Okay, I can't blow that long.
Die Frage von Herrn
No, the question
Kelber heißt,
from Mr. Kelber was, in which areas can the Federal Data Protection Commissioner instruct the German Federal State Data Protection Commissioners? What areas actually exist?
rechtlichen Bereich,
Which legal areas, legal issues, you could say, in which
kann der Bundesdatenschutz
issues
die
can
Landesbeauftragten anweisen, etwas zu tun.
the instruction be made?
Ich will vielleicht einen Tipp geben.
Maybe we can,
Das sind viele Zahlen. So.
give a hint about the number of areas of the binary numbers. There are many options there.
Also nein, oh, das war
No,
das vergesst
no, forget that hint. No.
Jetzt sollte deine Antwort kommen.
Now you should reach your answer. Audience joker. Great.
Hast du das Ding noch?
Ja, ja, so ein
Do you still have this?
Sehr schön.
Okay.
Wie wollen wir das machen? Du suchst
So how should we do it? Does anyone know? Let's look through the audience. The angel with the microphone will now look for someone who knows, and otherwise we'll just vote.
Wer will für Müsli in die...
Who wants to step into the breach for Muesli? He will have to, of course, decide whether he will accept the answer. Someone is showing up in the very back.
So, da wollen wir mal hoffen, dass du jetzt...
Okay, where was that raised hand? Let's hope that we found someone who knows. It's a clearly answerable question. Well, since I haven't got so many points to lose, I will say 0. Yes, correct answer.
Das heißt für Müsli
So, 1024 points for Muesli.
Nein.
No, 23. 23. He only had 23 points to gamble.
Ja, das war ja die Risikofrage.
It was the risk question. You had to gamble a certain number of points. Because that question was far too simple for 1024. It was because someone knew the answer. So now let's explain. The Federal Data Protection Commissioner has no relation to the Federal State Data Protection Commissioners. They're different areas. The Federal Data Protection Commissioner is mainly tasked with federal authorities and the data protection there, and the Federal State Data Protection Commissioners are involved with data protection at the federal state organizations, authorities, and also have supervision about private enterprises. So they deal with everything that takes place in terms of private data processing. The Federal Data Protection Commissioner has a small area where he will deal with telecommunication law, but mainly the areas of supervision are completely separate. So he has nothing to tell us, and we have nothing to tell him. So the answer 0 is completely right, and there's no area in which instructions can be made. Okay, great.
Wir müssen ein
You
bisschen...
can now choose the next question. We'll have to speed things up a bit.
Hacker, und zwar?
Okay, hacker.
Welche?
Which number?
Ach, wie ich schon wieder.
How much?
Ach Gott.
Me again, huh? Okay, I'll choose 1024.
Räumst ab.
You're really on a roll here. Okay.
Schon wieder Risiko. Das gibt's ja.
Oh, risk again.
Wie viel willst du setzen? Alle?
How much do you want to bet? All 64 points, or? I didn't come up with a hacker question that I was sure that no one could answer.
Alle?
Also halt,
Okay, I'm gonna bet all of them. Oh, wait.
muss ich was erzählen. Also es ist eine
Okay, I have to tell you something. This is a risk question. How many questions? How many points do you want to bet? 64.
Jetzt muss ich mal die Geschichte erzählen.
Okay, I first have to tell the story.
Ein Personalmitarbeiter einem Unternehmen
A HR member of the company has a suitcase in a car. It was a locked case in a locked car.
Dieser Koffer wurde gestohlen.
The suitcase was lost,
10 Tage
or rather stolen, including the
später
laptop. 10 days later,
erhält das Unternehmen eine Erpresser-E-Mail. Bitte
the company receives blackmail.
Bitcoin an die Adresse.
Please send us X number of bitcoins for in the hundreds of thousands at the address blah blah.
Der Erpresser schickt auch ein paar
And
Personaldaten mit.
the blackmailer was
Laptop waren als
sending personal data that was on that laptop, so HR payroll information.
das Unternehmen
And
eine Datenpanne.
24 hours later, the company reports a data breach.
Kann die
Or data leak.
Aufsichtsbehörde ein Bußgeld
Can the governance organization, the supervising authority, impose
Es kommt drauf an.
a penalty? So the question is,
fast immer richtig?
what's the reasoning? Who do they have to inform?
Willst du lösen?
Do you want to solve it?
Aufsichtsbehörde ein Bußgeld.
Can the supervising body impose a penalty? Do I have to solve all of them?
Gebe ich lieber ab.
Okay, I'm passing.
Wer kann die Fragen beantworten?
Ich würde sie nehmen.
Ja, dann nehmen Sie Katrin.
I'll take it.
Dann gibt es aber auch nur 46 Punkte.
But then you only get 64 points, right?
46 gesetzt.
Because he bet 64. Why am I getting his points?
Aber ich will nochmal auf 0 zurück.
Okay, I want to go back to 0.
Ja. Okay, 6.
Okay.
Ich habe jetzt irgendwie
64.
50, also so viel mehr.
Okay, I only got some 50 something. So,
Okay. Also, kann die
So.
Aufsichtsbehörde ein Bußgeld verhängen? Grundsätzlich
can the supervisory authority impose a penalty?
72 Stunden
Yes, because usually after 24 hours the breach has to be reported,
im verschlossenen Auto.
and
Wenn nämlich entweder war da eine scheiß Kryptographie,
either there was a bad cryptography on it, even if they got the laptop, obviously they could read it, so that's a problem in itself.
Minimum
The company has to, at a minimum, inform the body, because there is a HR, or rather personally identifiable information on it. For example, health-related information. So I would assume that the relevant people had the data on their laptop, so all of them have to be informed.
Wäre gerne abgegeben.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't take that question.
Ich glaube, da können wir die vollen 46.
Yeah, I really think we can avoid all 64 points to her.
Nächste Runde.
Oh, okay, next question, next round. What
Verschlüsselt.
do we learn from this? Yes, encrypt your notebooks. Otherwise, this could be very expensive. It happens all the time. It's not just laptops, also stationary desktop computers.
Schwierig, die zu verschlüsseln.
It's really not that hard anymore to encrypt it. Yeah, please also encrypt all of the USB sticks. And if you find a USB stick on the parking lot, please don't just put it into the slot.
Katrin ist da. Such dir was aus.
You can choose.
Informationsfreiheit 64.
Freedom of information 64.
Infofreiheit Länder.
Freedom of information for on a state level. So I have to improvise a little bit to find the right video here.
Hallo, mein Name
Hello,
ist Isabel Groß.
my name is Isabel Groß. I'm a referent in the
Transparenz ist wichtig, aber nicht
Data Protection Agency in Hessen.
wie viele Bundesländer
Its data protection is important, but not
das Transparenzgesetz auf den Weg gebracht.
given. How many states have not passed a law regarding data governance and data security?
Kein Informationsfreiheitsgesetz.
How many
Ich glaube, ich gebe ab.
How many states in Germany do not have an Information and Freedom Act yet? I want to pass. Okay, so there's 16 states during our last census at least. Which one of those doesn't have a Freedom of Information Act yet?
Für 46 Punkte.
For 64 points? Where were we? Yes, 64 points.
Ja.
War das jetzt mit meinen Punkten? Also
So what about my points now? So you passed. Yeah, nothing happens for you. You get the same state.
Wer möchte lösen?
Who wants to solve it?
Wer kann wenigstens
Okay, special offer. Who can at least name one state that doesn't have a Freedom of Information Act yet?
Auf geht's. Wer ist als erstes?
Come on, someone. Who's the first one to name one?
Bitte?
Bayern.
Bayern ist richtig.
Oh yeah, Bavaria. Bavaria is right.
Bayern.
Wen finden wir noch?
Okay, what else is there? Bavaria?
Niedersachsen, ganz schlecht.
Lower Saxony?
Entwurf in der Mache.
Yeah, they're working on a draft. Saxonia, yes, right.
Kein Informationsfreiheitsgesetz haben.
If Bavaria doesn't have it, then obviously Saxony doesn't have one either.
Das ist fair. Das sind
That sounds fair. That's 64 points for Catherine.
nächste Runde.
Next round.
Sind wir noch dran? Such dir was aus.
Still your turn. Choose.
Komm, lass uns doch mal Fake News nehmen.
Let's take fake news
News 42.
42.
Fake News 42. Oh, der Kindergarten.
Ah.
The kindergarten.
Mal wieder wechseln und den Kindergarten suchen.
We're looking for the kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
Das
Ah.
sieht gut aus.
This looks good.
Ja, hallo, mein Name
Hello, my name is Wolfram Banner. I'm
beim Landesbeauftragten für den Datenschutz in
mayor and
Baden-Württemberg. Mich erreicht die folgende Anfrage sehr oft.
I got the following question very often. My child was photographed
Dürfen die das?
in the kindergarten and now it's in the internet. Is that allowed?
So, Katrin, möchtest du lösen?
Catherine, do you want to solve?
Nee, dürfen sie nicht. Also ich kann schon
No, they're not allowed
fotografieren und ich kann auch schon das
to do
Foto machen,
that.
wenn andere Kinder
It's
drauf
okay if you
sind. Moment, wo ich's halt ins
do
Internet stelle,
photograph in the kindergarten, it's fine, but if you upload it somewhere in the internet on social media or somewhere, I've totally lost, so that's not allowed. Perfect, Catherine. That's 42 points for you.
Super, du bist immer noch dran. Du machst das hier ganz
So, still your turn. Do you, can you still keep count?
Zeichen 42.
Let's take question mark 42.
Das sieht spannend aus.
That looks interesting.
Mein Gott, du räumst
Joker,
42 Punkte oben drauf.
you're on a roll. Oh, you just get 64 points.
Katrin, mach rein.
42 points. Catherine, go on.
Dann tauscht mal gerade die Mikros.
Da habe ich irgendwo drauf gedrückt, kann auch sein.
Press somewhere.
Danke. Das ist also schön bunt hier. Informationsfreiheit 1024.
Oh,
Freedom of Information 1024.
jetzt willst du es wissen.
Now you wanna.
Das ist eine wirklich schwierige Frage.
That's a really difficult question.
Aus welchem Land?
Welchem Land?
In which country?
Zu welcher Zeit wurde das
Which country has passed the first law for freedom of information
der Publikumsjoker?
in the world?
Frage aus dem Publikum. Mal gucken.
In welchem Jahr?
Audience Joker.
And in which year?
And in which year was it passed? So, Audience Joker.
Wer weiß es? Wer kann da Katrin helfen?
Who knows it? Who can tell Catherine?
Wer? Ganz da hinten wird geschnipst.
Habe ich ja gar nicht.
Da hinten hin.
All the way back there.
Da bin ich mal sehr gespannt, ob das so gut
Now
klappt.
I'm
Beim vorherigen
very
Publikumsjoker.
interested how this will work.
Und das Ja.
So the first
Wer ist schon ganz
Freedom of Information Act
sondern von weltweit.
weltweit, so ist es.
worldwide.
Richtig.
Nein, welches Jahr?
1766 hat er gesagt. Das war
Was?
1766.
Ich weiß, wer das ist. 1200.
I probably know who that was. 1024 points for Catherine.
Did you get the country? What was the country?
Sehr schön.
Sweden. Okay. Okay, many greetings to fragdenstaat.de, the FOI platform in Germany.
Also,
Right.
herzlichen Dank.
Many thanks, whoever it was, I didn't see.
Danke. Vielen Dank.
Oh, thank you. I'll donate some money. Okay.
Dann lasst uns doch mal
Now,
was ich ganz
let's
nicht
take something I
42.
surely don't know. Hacker 42. Changing passwords.
Das ist hübsch. Nach welcher Zeitspanne sollten
After which period of time admins should make users change their passwords? How often should passwords be changed? Oh, I'll solve.
Eigentlich bis vor kurzem stand
Actually,
sowas wie 3 Monate.
until some short time ago, the standard term was 3 months, but
Das heißt, wenn
since shortly it's just regarding any issues, any incidents, or so maybe there is no time period at all, because short time periods will lead to people writing passwords down and pinning them to the screen. Alva, correct.
und wenn euer Admin
And if your admin in your company somewhere tells you to change your passwords every 30 or 90 days or something, then point them to our password guidelines, which you can get from our website, where it says, no, you shouldn't enforce password changes only if there is a reason, an occasion. So that was as many as, how many was that? 42 points, right? Yes, 42 points. You'll keep the tally. You can do sums above 1,000, surely. Katrin, just continue.
will ich vielleicht doch mal jemand
But,
anders.
well, maybe someone else.
Okay.
You can pass on the question. Okay.
Informationsfreiheit.
Freedom of Information 128. In freedom of information and human rights or basic rights. A nice little question. Is there a basic rights to freedom of information in Germany? We've all learned that the right to information and self-determination is a basic right as determined by the German Federal Constitutional Court, but the right to get information from authorities, Katrin, it's good that you are a legal expert, is that a basic right? I pass. That's a clever decision, Andreas. I'll take that question and I'll say no, because it's not in the basic law, in the Constitution, but it's in the Freedom of Information law, which is a federal law, but not a basic law. Nice try, but sadly wrong. In freedom of information is a basic right. It's in Article 5 of the Constitution, where it says that people can inform themselves from public sources. What you said about the interplay between state laws, which are the FOI laws, and German basic rights. At the time a state passes a freedom of information law, that the data becomes a public source, and you then have a constitutional right to access that source. So sadly, we'll have to deduct points from you. 128. Does it still have any? No, none. So 0 points. We have 2 people from at 0. You are out, and Ollie, how is he doing? 92. So everything's still open in the running there. Because you gave such a nice answer, you can choose the next question.
What do you want to have? What do you choose?
Dann nehme ich doch einfach
I'll take Hacker 64. So Hacker 64.
Tja, bei
Well,
Hackerangriff
and when you have a hacker attack, an attacker took the email address of a customer of an online shop and copied it.
nenne 3 wichtige
Tell
Maßnahmen.
us 3 important measures that the shop owner has to take now. Do you want to solve, Andreas?
Die ersten beiden würden wir vermutlich.
So the first 2 I would probably come up with, but the third, nah,
Gib einfach mal ab.
I'll just pass.
Wer möchte lösen?
So who wants to solve now?
nehme ich mal.
Okay, I'll take it.
Er muss die betroffenen Kunden informieren.
Yeah, they have to inform the customers, they have to inform the authorities, and
irgendwie kompromittiert wurden oder sowas.
they have to invalidate the login credentials.
3 Antworten. Ich hatte zwar mit einer richtigen anderen gerechnet.
Well, I was actually waiting for a different one, but yeah, that's okay, that's all right, give them the points.
Das erste war, er muss
So,
natürlich die Sicherheitslücke schließen.
the first one would have been, yeah, well, obviously mitigate the problem, i.e. solve the leak or
Also,
the threat vector. So how many points was that?
das waren, glaube ich, Hacker 64.
It was 64, right? Yeah, 64. For Müsli. So you can also choose the next category now.
Fake News ist noch abzuarbeiten.
Well, we still have to do fake news. There's a lot of them.
Können wir einen Punktestand kurz mal zwischen? Nee, ich will
Can we look at... Oh, well. I'll take the 128.
News 128, das ist ein Joke.
Okay, it's a Joker. Nice.
128 Punkte oben drauf. Jetzt hast du den Olli schon wieder hinter dir gelassen. So schnell geht das bei uns. Nächste
kommst du
Runde,
nicht
such
auf,
dir
ne?
das nächste Feld aus.
Ja, ich versuch's.
Okay, I'll try.
Ich nochmal.
Well,
Ja, wo könnte denn noch ein Joker sein?
well
20 Datenpannen?
data leaks 23. Huh.
Das erste Bußgeld, willst du?
So the first fine imposed on a company in Germany.
Massiv erhöhte Bußgelder.
So since the latest change in the law, the fines were raised massively. So
Jetzt ist die Frage,
there was a first fine imposed by the state commissioner for data protection in Baden-Württemberg.
worum ging es beim ersten?
So what was that about? What was the first fine done for? It was on Heise.
Offensichtlich irgendwie keiner.
Obviously, no one wants to have it, so it was the platform called Knuddels.
Glaube ich, Passwörter.
What they did was they had unencrypted passwords on a database, and it was 80,000 euros. 20.
20.000 Euro.
It was 20,000 euros as a fine for having clear text passwords saved in their
noch kopiert wurden.
Kann ich diese
database that were copied. Is it possible for me to know that website with my age? Well, it depends. It could be difficult. Depends. Can we ask you for your age?
Seehofer kennt
Nah, rather not. Horst Seehofer knows about it, so
Punkte für Katrin.
23 points for Catherine.
Ihr rechnet mit. Nein, da hinten wird mitgerechnet.
Okay. You're calculating, right?
Du machst weiter.
Datenpannen 42.
Data fails 42.
Das Klassenbuch.
Das ist auch hübsch.
The class book.
Wo ist das Klassenbuch?
Translator doesn't know the translation of. It's a book where the behavior of pupils is registered by the teacher at school.
Ja, Herr Olle von der Grundhauptschule in Tübingen. Hallo, Frau.
At the Data Protection Agency,
Es ist mal wieder das Klassenbuch abhanden gekommen. Es wurde
or the class book has been lost. Do I have to report a data fail?
Das ist eine sehr gute Frage.
Oh, this is a very good question.
Und die Kollegen fragen.
Da muss ich erstmal. I have to ask the colleagues. Come here, can somebody help me?
Katrin, möchtest du lösen?
Katrin, you want to solve?
Gekommene Klassenbuch. Ist
Also,
das eine
ihr
Datenbank?
meint
In der Grund- und Hauptschule hinter Tupfingen.
diese Kladde, die halt immer von Lehrer
In the elementary school hinter Tupfingen.
sagen wird, wer da ist und wer nicht da ist.
Zum Beispiel?
Zum Beispiel.
Classbook registers who's there and who was missing.
Ich würde sagen,
I'd say
es ist echt schwierig.
very difficult. Normally, I'd say, okay, there's no automated data processing, it's just in a book.
Aber schon irgendwie systematisch
But
geordnet.
it's systematic.
Buch ist halt der Inbegriff von
It's
systematischer
ordered.
Ordnung.
It's
Und dann unterfällt es halt
Classbooks are
auch wieder. Insofern
the epitome of systematic order.
Das ist die volle Punktzahl für die Katrin.
That's right, and that's full marks for Katrin.
zur Erklärung vielleicht unter die Datenschutzgrundverordnung fallen also nicht nur automatisiert verarbeitete Daten, sondern auch
So GDPR does not just protect automatically registered data, but all kinds of data that are systematically collected, and completely rightly you said that the systematic order of information in a class register is something you can imagine, so that is a breach that has to be reported. And if that would be a repeated problem at the primary and secondary school of Hintertupfingen, we would have to look into that and see if maybe we need to do something more.
Wollen wir mal wieder die Frage
Okay, let's take the question marks again. 128. Question mark 128. Now that is an urn has been washed ashore.
Alva, möchtest du
Alva, do you like to tell the story?
wird eine Urne angeschnitten.
At a beach, an urn washes ashore, and the number of the cremation can be found, read on the urn. Is that personal data? The cremation number may be registered in some kind of list somewhere, and that might lead to the name of the deceased. Now, Katrin, would you like to solve this? You're conferring. That is quite perfidious. Perfidious. I just wanted to see if I should pass on the question to someone who wants to earn a few points with it. But in some cemetery register, that is not very unique. Well, but the person in this urn is dead. Mostly that is the case, yes. So, and GDPR would only protect living people. Great. Katrin. Full marks. 120 points to Katrin. Add that to the tally. That is the fact. And the GDPR does not apply to deceased people. That is the lesson to learn from this question. Next question. Next round.
Wir killen mal Informationsfreiheit.
Okay, let's finish off in freedom of information. So, freedom of information 42. It's a guesstimation question for everybody.
Jeder von euch muss eine Schätzung abgeben, und zwar.
So everybody has to do a guesstimate, and the question is, how many countries in the world have Freedom of Information Acts?
Es gibt noch die kostenlose Information dazu.
There is free information I'm going to give you. There are roughly 193 countries in the world. So the question is, how many of those have passed a Freedom of Information Act?
Wer am nächsten dran ist, bekommt.
The one who's closest gets the full marks.
Andreas, schätz was.
Ich nehme einfach mal 58.
I'm going to choose 58.
Ich sag klassischerweise 3.
I'm going to say 3.
Okay. Katrin?
42. 42.
Olli.
Olli?
Was passiert, wenn ich jetzt auch 42 sage?
What happens if I also say 42?
Dann kriegen beide die
Würden wir ein
Punkte.
Stechen machen.
No, well, then we do a tiebreaker. So, for tactical reasons, maybe choose 41 or 43. So, he chooses 43. Clear victory for Andreas.
Ziemlich viele, ne? Weißt du es gerade?
130 Staaten dieser.
It is 130 roundabout.
Das heißt, du warst mit deinen 58.
So, with your 58, you were actually pretty bad, but you're still closest.
Das heißt, volle Punktzahl für Andreas.
So, 4 points for Andreas.
Und du darfst dir auch die nächste Kategorie aussuchen.
And you may choose the next category.
Dann poker ich mal hoch und nehme Datenpannen.
I'm pokering and using data fail 1024.
Maximales Bußgeld. Oh, jetzt wird es ganz schwierig.
Maximum fine.
Und zwar, die Frage stellt sich,
The question is,
genau,
how high exactly is the maximum fine for a non-reported data fail?
willst du lösen?
Ich nehme einfach
You want to solve?
Joker, obwohl ich eine Idee habe, in welche Richtung es geht.
I have an idea, but I'm still gonna use my audience joker. I'm pretty sure that several people know the exact number.
Vielen Dank. Und deswegen
Oh, you stored that?
Wer kann dem Andreas
So, who can help Andreas?
Ja, da meldet sich ein ganz
Also,
mutiger.
wie
Da melden sich
Someone is piping up.
Andreas.
Andreas, you choose.
20 Millionen.
4% of revenue, yearly revenue,
Darf ich rein Interesse halber fragen, was
or 20 million, whatever is higher. I'm sorry, I didn't get the number.
ist nämlich beides falsch.
It's both wrong.
Ich glaube nämlich auch, dass es 2% sind.
Das ist richtig.
It's 2% of yearly revenue.
Ganz hervorragend, Andreas.
He's laughing. Andreas,
Aber die Regeln sind, wie sie sind.
the rules are as they are. You just lost 1,024 points. Your own fault. The maximum fine is the so-called small fine. Real bad errors cost 4%.
2% des weltweiten Jahresumsatzes.
Formal errors cost 2% of revenue, yearly revenue.
Betragen 10 Millionen in dem
10 million is the,
Dann sind 2% des weltweiten Jahresumsatzes.
well, lower limit.
Das ist das maximale Bußgeld, das man verhängen kann. Hast du sehr gut gewusst, aber
Very good,
leider alle Punkte dabei verloren.
but lost all
Du
points.
darfst dir aber dafür was aussuchen.
You may choose.
Dann poker ich doch nochmal hoch. Und
Okay, I'll go high and take 1024 again, GDPR. So, that is my favorite question. I'm not going to spoil it. Just ask the question. When did the GDPR come into force? We would like the exact date, please.
23. Mai.
23rd of May 2018.
Das ist
It's quite a good answer. I would have said 25th of May. Well, May 2018 sounds very good, but unfortunately it's wrong. 24th of May 2016, what I would have said. Or is it 25th of May 2016? Is May correct? Well, decide anyway. It's what 2016. We are not happy with just a year. We want the exact date.
Einer den Monat, einer das Jahr.
One will give us the month, the other the date, and the other person the year. 21st of May.
Will sonst noch jemand
Would anyone else like to lose all their points? Katrin, would you like to solve this, or what are you going to? We'll chat. It will be in force as it is published in the European register, right? And that was in 2016. That was when the GDPR was finalized, the negotiations, and it was then published in the Register of Laws, and that's when it came into force. It wasn't the 25th of May 2018. That was the moment when it became effective. It was in force. It was out there, but it became effective on the 25th of May 2018. We asked about the coming into force, and that, in fact, was the yes. Now, wasn't it something strange like the 45th day after publication? So that's Article 99, right? Now you only need to know what the 45th day after publication was. Oh, come on. The 1024 questions are extremely hard. So I would suggest that you would not want to answer a question. Yes, all right. Alva, which day in May was it? It was the 24th. On the 20th day after publication in the register, it was published on the 4th of May, 16th or 17th of May. It was passed.
Aber hatte ich 24. Mai 2016 nicht ganz eben?
Didn't I say 24th of May 2016? Yes, you did, but you then decided not to answer the question. Oh, you are evil. We are the supervisory authority.
Dafür bist du die nächste.
But at least you'll get to choose the next question.
Okay.
Hacker 128.
I'm going to choose hacker 128.
Hacker 128.
Okay, hacker 128 is another joker. Oh, wow. Okay. Are you still keeping track?
So, es wird so langsam eng hier.
Okay, this is getting close.
Okay, dann
Okay, let's choose
64.
question marks 64. So this is about scoring and your residential address. Is it allowed to use the information that the person lives in a high-rise building when calculating the score value, and if it's detrimental to the score that the person gets? So these kind of scoring systems, they try to determine if you're solvent, if you can pay for your bills. So there are companies like Schufa, that's the most important one, that creates a score. And the question now is, if they calculate the score, are they allowed to take into account the effect that they're living in a high-rise building? So for example, if someone lives in a detached house or in a semi-detached house, that's probably a better value. So Kaschen, do you want to answer? I'm passing. So please choose someone who actually has a score already. I probably already have a pretty bad score, but I'd say in principle, yes, it's probably disallowed to choose the residential address. But in this particular case, it's not about the address itself, but rather about some property of that. So in this case, I'd say yes. And yeah, this is something we can count. Yeah, it is allowed to count that information. There is another problem. It's not allowed to choose or to calculate the score with just this information. If someone thinks this is unfair, please write to the Schufa. So I just want to say that I've asked the Schufa before how they calculate the score, and I'm still waiting for the answer. There is actually very interesting a very interesting ruling by the Constitutional Court, and they say that this is a trade secret of the Schufa, and they don't have to tell you. We actually have the Open Schufa project, and they should actually have to, they could force them to come up with the secret. And yeah, this is another one of those things where we use Frag den Staat. And we want to encourage you to participate in this, to give them some more questions that they can ask to the state, where they can try to figure out the method for creating the score by the Schufa. So Andreas, your turn.
Well, there's not much left. I'm choosing fake news 64.
Wahr oder falsch und
True or false, and why?
Hier kommt die Frage. Müssen seit der Datenschutzgrundverordnung Vermieter die Klingelschilder aller...
Do landlords have to screw off the doorbell shields since the GDPR has gone into effect? Do landlords have to remove doorbell shields?
Das abgeschraubt werden. Es gibt Vereine, zum Beispiel Haus- und Grundeigentümervereine Baden-Württemberg, die haben genau das von sich gegeben. Die Frage ist nur, stimmt das? Fordert die
Is this correct or not?
Oder fordert die Datenschutzgrundverordnung das nicht? Andreas.
Selbstverständlich nicht.
Sehr schön.
Andreas says, no, they don't have to be removed. 64 points for Andreas, correct.
Also das sehe ich jeden Tag.
Sehr schön. Da gilt der alte Merkspruch, wenn etwas verrückt
His doorbell shield is still there. If it sounds silly, it's not data protection. It's your turn.
Tja, ich nehme einfach mal die 3 Fragezeichen.
Okay, I'll just take the 3 question marks, 23. Actually, there's an exclamation mark in there. 2 question marks, 1 exclamation mark, 23. Photos. Okay, we're dealing with photos again. Is the audience allowed to take photos from us, of us on the stage here? Well, according to camp regulations, come on, hold on. Andreas, would you like to answer the question? I would answer yes, because we are part of a public event with respective consent. Is that your final answer? Well, it's only 23 points, so yes, I'll stick with it. Alva, I will accept that, yeah. I just wanted to raise the tension a bit. Yes would have been enough, even if the introduction meeting said that you have to ask before taking questions. Yes, but that is house law or house rules. The organizers can say that you can only take a photo after you've called out the German Interior Minister Horst Seehofer's name 3 times. They are allowed to do that, but what is legally permissible is another question. And legally, yes, of course, it is allowed to take photos of anyone you want. The problem only arises when you want to distribute those photos, and that's where data protection comes in. But beforehand, taking photos is fully allowed. Difficult question because many, out of fear or ignorance, start to prohibit taking photos in schools, for example. And so school directors say you're not allowed to take photos anymore. Completely superfluous. That's nothing to do with data protection at all. You can take photos of your own children and other people's children as long as you don't publish them online. What is prohibited is publishing those photos without consent by the parents, for example, but the actual taking of photos is always allowed. Very little, small restriction. If you somewhere photograph your neighbors in secret through their bedroom window, that is probably a breach of personality right. But in terms of data protection, you can take photos as much as you want. Keep them to yourselves. You can look at them as often as you want, but as soon as you want to publish them online, you have to obtain consent or have to have a contractual basis or something like that. So we have a public event here. Well, so public for an entrance fee of 295 euros, I think that is a rumor. Well, public doesn't mean it has to be free of charge. It just has to be that people can participate on a general basis, even in a public bath where there's an entrance fee. This is a public place. We're talking about the data protection law, though, not about the rights to your own image or something like that, because I'm just gaining here incredulous glances. That is the difference between data protection law and personality law. Yes. We'll get to almost to the end. We have 2 questions left. Andreas, your turn to choose.
Okay, no matter how much I get right now, you're still ahead of me, so I'll choose Hacker 23.
Hacker 23.
So.
Das hatten wir schon.
Oh, we had that one.
Nee, hatten wir offensichtlich schon.
Okay. Oh, that's how is that possible?
Moment.
Must be a bug. So I guess I'll choose Fake News 23.
Fake News 23. Fake News 23. Da haben wir schon ein bisschen Zeit gespart.
Ja.
Okay, so we save time now.
Wahr oder falsch?
To still get the point. Okay, true or false and why? So, processing of data is only valid with the consent of the person affected. So is this statement correct? If I am using the data from some third party, do I need their consent? Do you want to solve, Andreas? So I wish it was, but obviously it's not right, because Schufa wouldn't exist otherwise. So yes, answer correct. 23 points from his score.
Die Einwilligung ist eine
Okay, so consent is an important basis, but not the only one.
auch die Möglichkeit, Daten auf Basis eines Vertrags.
There's always a legitimate reason, for example, if you waive your rights in a contractual form. So consent is one, but it's not the central or even the most important one. So that was the second round, and this is the moment where we have to say goodbye to 2 people. So let's look at the scoreboard. So Andreas has how many points now? 164. Please applaud. Huh? 74. So how many does Müsli have?
110 Punkte.
110. That's less, but still worthy of an applause. So, how many does Katrin have?
Over 9,000.
Over 9,000.
Ich glaube, das reicht. 1632.
1,632. Yeah, it looks like you can stay here. And how many does Olli have?
92. Oh.
92. I'm sorry, that's not enough. So that's why we have to say goodbye to Müsli and Olli with a warm applause.
Ihr kriegt nachher noch einen Trostpreis, bleibt mal in der Nähe, noch nicht
Genau.
You're getting a consolation prize. Stay there,
und kriegt euren Preis.
and you're going to come back on stage later. Now to the final of the two first contestants, top contestants of the second row, of the second round.
Die Punkte, die ihr jetzt sammelt in der
The
letzten Runde,
points that you're going to get in the last round are going to be multiplicators.
Multiplikatorpunkte.
Multiplikatorpunkte. Das heißt, wenn du keine Punkte machst und er macht
If you have no points
Ergebnis, nämlich 1600 mal 0 ist ziemlich wenig.
and he has one, he gets his result.
Punkt zu holen ist noch nicht so doll, dann behalten.
So the first point, to win the first point isn't very interesting, and then it's going to be interesting.
Beide.
Ah, okay.
Ihr kommt
Whose turn is it? Turn of both.
zu kompliziert, viel zu kompliziert. Datenschützer.
Much too complicated.
Kommen wir dann nacheinander dran oder müssen wir?
Ihr werdet beide gefragt.
Okay.
You're both going to be asked
Gibt es bei uns die meisten Beschwerden?
about what kind of video surveillance are there most complaints?
Also Beschäftigtendatenschutz. Zur Videoüberwachung.
Which of these draws the most complaints? In A, pools, B, of employees, C, in private houses, D,
Was würdest du sagen?
on cemeteries. Andreas, what's your choice? You choose B, employees. Katrin chooses C, in private houses.
Die Antwort C ist richtig. Katrin hat
C is correct. Katrin has 1 point.
das meiste, was wir an Beschwerden über
It's really like that. Most complaints about video surveillance that we get is that
der entweder zu
I survey my neighbor,
Polizei marschiert oder bis er
and either they survey back or they go to the police. Complain.
vom Tisch zu kriegen. Absolut lästig, auch für uns ganz schwierig. Erster Punkt für
Very
Katrin.
difficult for us as well.
Die zweite Frage ist wieder ein.
Second question, and that again is a video question.
Herr Mayer, guten Tag.
Hello, Mr. Meyer.
Ganz scharfe Mieze. Sie wissen, als ich letztes Mal Streifenwagen gefahren bin.
When I was still in a patrol car, I can only tell you the bends, great. And now, do you know what I do now? Now I'm now going to ask about number plates, and this woman, I'm not going to let this great woman pass me by. It is a 1 or 2 time only chance, so I'm now going to query that number plate in my database. Okay, now this fake police person here, this fake policeman,
Was ist die genaue Frage?
what is the exact question? Right. We are dealing with a policeman who has seen a fantastic woman on his patrol, and she was in a car with a number plate, and he memorized the number plate, and now he has access to the police database, and he goes ahead and looks up the number plate to find out the name of that lady, residence, maybe contact details such as mobile phone number, and goes ahead. And the question in that context is that policeman allowed to do this, and what happens to him if he goes ahead and does it? Now it's Katrin's turn to start. First, is he allowed? No. Well, he's a policeman. Police databases are made for policemen. Yes, they're made for police people if they have a task, a case to process, and if they are authorized to look at that data. I'm sure that he's not investigating this woman, and the interest does not count. Well, maybe she went around the bend in illegal ways, but he didn't say that. True. What would happen to him? Well, trouble with the authorities protection commissioner and the federal state data protection commissioner and a fine.
Darf das?
Andreas, what do you think? Is he allowed and what would happen? Of course not. That was in the press recently. And he will receive a fine. Nice. Good. You're both correct. A point to both of you. Applause.
Das war übrigens nach der Datenschutzgrundverordnung.
By the way, according to the GDPR regulation, that was actually a point of contest that if anyone in public service, for example, police people, if it's allowed to give them a fine or not. A lot of people were of the opinion that this is impossible, but some others also said, yeah, it is. And in this case, the police person received a fine of 1,500 euros because he had interest in the person that was not within the course of the duty. And as a police person, they're always allowed to use their respective databases, but as a private person, they're not. So 2 points, one for each of you. There was a question in the audience. Yeah. Who actually supervises this? So yeah, partly us. The question is, how do we get notice of this, or how would we suspect this? In this particular case, for example, if the woman notices that the person, that the police guy is watching her, how is he able to call me on my private number? They shouldn't be able to know it. And by now we can talk about this quite openly. So by now the police databases are now watched with a sort of a honeypot. Every access is logged, and we do superficial checks on all of the requests that are being done. Maybe every 100 or so requests is looked at. They're supervised by an internal data protection officer at the police, and they try to determine if it was an official case that they were working on or if they had private reasons to do so. And this actually works quite well. In those areas, there are no accesses on these databases anymore that are not being logged, which is great, because in this particular context, this is very important and very sensible to do. So 2-1 for Katrin. What's the... So this is a bug. We already had that one today. Well, we're already over time anyway, so we're going to just pass on to the next question.
Nein, das ist die falsche. Die hatten
That's the wrong question. We had that.
Das da ist die richtige.
That's the right one. Mr. Kelber, I'm the Federal Commissioner for Data Protection and Information Protection. My question, what is the maximum fine that a federal agency can be fined?
Der Herr Sparbier, kennt ihr noch jemand?
Does anyone remember Mr. Sparbier?
Da wir jetzt schnell machen.
Mr. Sparbier was
Und kommt zur Frage vom Bundesbeauftragten. Also, wie hoch ist das Maximum,
in the previous game show.
der Bundesbehörde auferlegt werden kann?
Again, what's the maximum fine
Katrin als erste Antwort.
that a federal agency can has to pay?
Oh.
0. Katrin answers none. Andreas says the same.
Würde das schon machen. Mir würde da was einfallen.
Oh, I have some ideas.
Tatsächlich personell verantwortlich.
It would make more sense to act against the personally responsible person. 2 correct answers, 3-2 for Katrin.
Die Datenschutzgrundverordnung sieht eigentlich
A bit of background for the last question.
genauso wie Unternehmen auch. Allerdings haben in Deutschland jedenfalls
Offices, just as agencies, just as corporations can be fined.
haben für ihre Behörden bestimmt, dass sie keine Bußgelder
But several states have decreed
Da kann man Behörden bebußen.
that agencies cannot be fined. In other nations in Europe, this is different. Agencies can be fined.
Überhaupt keine Bußgelder auferlegen.
In Germany, no way to fine a federal agency.
Okay, and now we're back with our actor. Okay, yeah, of course, I know I cannot. But Mr. Mayor, you have this website. There's a legal problem, technical problem. The mayor wants to evaluate the website statistics, how many men access our website, how many women. You can do all kinds of analytics. I don't quite know. So, can I use an analysis tool on my website, asks the mayor. I think there's a large search engine there, US-based. Do we need a consent for this, or can we just run this? Please ask your husband, who knows all the technical details, what is the legal status? I just don't know. Maybe your husband knows something. That would be nice if you could ask him. Right. Now, you are the husband of the colleague of this guy. Could someone translate? That was Southwest German dialect, and yes, that was hard for the interpreter to understand too. I have it in better audio quality, but I didn't manage to get it worked into the video and edited. Okay, 3 questions. It's about whether Google Analytics can be used, and in this case, can Google Analytics be used by an authority, the one that this guy works for? That is the first question. Shall we go through all 3? Yes. The second question is an enterprise allowed to use Google Analytics? And thirdly, what, if it is allowed, would these organizations have to adhere to? So, Andreas, your turn. First question, is an authority allowed to use Google Analytics? I'll say no, really. And also to the second question, are enterprises allowed to use Google Analytics? No again. All right. And third question, what they have to adhere to, what they have to look out for. Well, if they would use this, they would have to remove the IP address, the last 2 bytes of it. At least that's what I know from PVIC. But with Google Analytics, it's clear that Google will not do this. That's why I'm saying no. So 2 no's and a response from Katrin. Authorities, I completely agree. No, it's just not on. And enterprises, yes, they can use Google Analytics, but they should take care to use these anonymizing variants where the last 2 bytes are made anonymous or pseudonym. And of course, they have to include this in their privacy statement, and they have to state a legal foundation on which they do this. But in my opinion, this does not require consent. It would be legitimate interest would be enough. Good. Alva, how would we score this? 0 points, both cases. I'll be quick. So, what is correct? Authorities are not allowed. You can explain that better than I can. Authorities would need a legal foundation. What would be possible would be consent by the visitors of a authority website, or those that are affected by the measurement of website reach, but consent is excluded because, according to the legal foundation, and consent will not get me any further. Legitimate interest 6111 is not a grounds for processing, so that's the end of that. So that's what you 2 said. That's correct so far. Are enterprises allowed? Yes, well, it's always possible to obtain consent, but that would have to be informed consent, would have to be voluntary. That's not often the case. The third question, is an enterprise allowed? Yes, and thirdly, what has to be taken care of? And we have a great FAQ on our website regarding this, which you will find if you use this large search engine to look for tracking in websites. Only 6 items, just a few pages, and that tells you what companies have to take care of if they use Google Analytics. And the simplest answer is just don't bother. Use something where you don't need all this stuff, such as Matomo, or Matomo is the successor software of Piwik, right? Yes, exactly. So host the data yourselves, the statistical data that you want to collect, and don't pass it on to a third party. If you use Google Analytics, in the Google Analytics standard settings, you need informed, voluntary, active, previous, and retractable consent by the users. It will not suffice what you see on many websites. If you continue using this website, you will consent to the use of cookies. I have never seen a cookie banner that will keep those 5 conditions. First, informed. You have to be told, do you agree that everything you do on this website is going to be transferred to Google or whoever operates this service? I've never seen a statement like that. Active. No tracking is allowed before you've said yes. Voluntary. It must be possible to answer yes and no. Retractable. You have to be able to rescind your consent, to take back your consent. Previous, voluntary, active. What did I forget? One thing I forgot. So these are the obstacles. It's all in the FAQ on our website, and that is the position of the supervisory authorities. So none of you answered all 3 questions correctly. It's still a 3-2 score, and that gives us a winner for tonight, and that's Katrin.
Genau, steht mal auf.
Yes, do stand up. We'll now go to the awarding ceremony. I'd like to ask the 2 colleagues, Müsli and Olli, back to the stage, because they'll be they would prize as Katrin. First of all, there's this fantastic certificate.
Nummer 2.
Number 2. You can enter your own names there. Olli, would you pass it on? And number 4. And then, Katrin, you will win the original Southwest German Swabian Maultaschen soup, whatever Maultaschen are. An original ventilator to you, Andreas, and lots of materials from the from the Data Protection Commissioner. And then that same specialty in chocolate form, and a gift from the Porsche company, which you can exchange. Alva, I would say, yes. Thanks a lot to all people that participated. We overran drastically, but now it's over. Short remark from me. I would like to make, we have this wonderful protection principle of transparency in the GDPR, and it will not have escaped you. I know some stuff. I don't know that much about crypto. I do data protection professionally as a lawyer. Sorry, it's not excluded, but I have tried to be as fair as possible and pass a few questions on, and I didn't answer everything correctly. So even lawyers can be wrong. So lawyers are always right, or legal people are always right. That wasn't true anyway. It was the wrong answer. So, but the questions were extremely good, and I would really like to thank you. This was great. Katrin, now you'll have to live with that victory. Thanks to all of you, to all that took part. Alva and I will thank everyone that you have stayed with us for so long, and have fun in the next few years, and with all these beautiful fair years GDPR-wise, and we'll keep reporting about them. Have a great time. Bye-bye.